here with my friend and colleague, Katie Porter, who is our executive director. Yes, and we have several other people I'm going to be introducing in a minute. With our programming for Arts Walk is trying different things. And one of the things we landed on trying was having an open mic so people could come and read their poems or whatever they wanted to read after the program. And of course, what happens after the program, sometimes people are ready to go home and they drift away. So Katie had the idea of flipping it. If the actual panel is going to start at like 7 o'clock, let's start with the readings, and then people can drift in and we can kind of be ready and warm up the audience before we actually do the panel. So this time around, instead of kind of having an open mic situation or booksellers who are here and they're taking turns reading, we're having the panelists do readings, which is different. We haven't done this before. So we're going to start out with me, I'm going to read, and then Katie, and so on down the line. And then when we do the actual panel program, we'll take a few minutes to do introductions and get going that way and start the program officially. Hi Lydia, welcome. We're happy to see you. Happy to see all of you. So I'm gonna do and we're doing readings. Okay, let me back up a little bit more. We were going to do a program last month that got canceled because of weather. We were worried about weather in the mountains, driving here long distances, and even across town. It was boring. So we just decided we're not going to do it. We're going to do it this month instead. So we're kind of combining what we were going to do last month, which is how to build a writer's life, how to create a writer's life and live it. What does that look like? What does that feel like? With gratitude, the Gratitude Project, we're calling it, Readers and Writers Edition. So we'll be talking on the themes of what it's like to build a writer's life, how we did it, what that looks like, and how fundamentally grateful we all are to be doing this kind of work and living this kind among this kind of people as well. So on the theme of building a writer's life, we brought work that we've published, that we've actually published, and we're going to read from that. So this is a book I published. It's called Behind the Scenes at ER. Remember the TV show ER? I was shocked, I tell you, shocked to look at this and see that it was published in 1995. How did that happen? In the 90s, it was very popular to have making of books. Do you remember them? It was a whole section at Barnes & Noble. It was before the internet. It was before you could just beep up boop and go see how something was made or done. So I wrote this book in 2012. I published this one. It's the Art and Making of the Dark Knight trilogy, the Christopher Nolan Batman books. This one, Shooting Star, the Ewan McGregor story. When Star Wars was coming out, they thought, it's going to be a huge thing, and let's make a book about it. So, Behind the Scenes at ER, I wrote and published. And I don't know if you know this or not. You know who Michael Crichton was? He was a very famous writer. He wrote The Andromeda Strain and many other books. He also wrote the pilot for ER, so he was involved in this directly. So here's my introduction. There is always, in the beginning, an idea. What becomes the Eiffel Tower, or the Declaration of Independence, or yesterday's dinner is at one point pure thought. A hit movie might start with a lunch shared by two friends and a paper napkin covered with the sudden ink of inspiration. A television sitcom might spring from the memory of striking out on one's own fresh from high school, or from fond recollections of long evenings at the neighborhood tavern. What a good idea, a writer might think. Now this is a story worth telling. Getting that story to the screen is an entirely different matter. In the world of television and film, the process of transforming an idea into reality is all too often a painful one. Concepts are mutated, molded, pummeled, and strained through the sieves of development until their origins are almost unrecognizable. It is rare indeed when the integrity of the original idea is apparent in its realization. ER stands as such an exception. Created by Michael Crichton, Author of an impressive list of bestsellers, including Congo, Jurassic Park, Rising Sun, and Disclosure, ER was originally written as a screenplay in 1974 and endured 20 years as a property that nearly everyone agreed was in serious need of repair. With its staccato scenes and frequently jarring portrayal of medicine, Crichton's story about 24 hours in a big city emergency room just didn't make sense in terms of conventional dramatic structure. As far as acceptable formulas went, this one was nowhere near the mark. Crichton was no stranger to the mercurial world of Hollywood. I'm going to pause. Kimmy is timing me. How am I doing? So far, I'll just finish this paragraph. After having had the majority of his novels translated into motion pictures, and having directed and written the screenplays for Westworld, Coma, and The Great Train Robbery, which was based on his own novel, he was perfectly aware that compromises in structure and content must sometimes be made. ER was different. Simply put, it was not a project he was willing to have compromised. That's it.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yes? Okay. All right. So one of the beauties of this, as we've conceived of it today, is you might know in concept that all of us running Inlandia are writers. We are a writers organization, but you don't often get to see us in this capacity. So knowing that Janine has hobnobbed with these very high-level people in the industry, it's a little, I don't know what's the word, but it's just kind of cool. My kids think it's kind of cool. So I am primarily a poet. These are all the poetry collections that I've published. These are my reading copies. I'm going to read you from, you see all the little rubber duckies? This is my most recent book of poetry, and it is called Novel. No, it's not a novel. It's a book of poems. How to teach a cat to type. 1. Put catnip on the keys and let said cat roll on the keys. 2. Stick with monosyllabic words at first. 3. But of course one must start by teaching it to read. 4. Once she has mastered Michel de Montaigne, move on to Schrodinger. 5. When she rejects conventional notions of morality, be prepared to accept the facts as they evolve to suit her. 6. If she asks for a martini, up, dry, with a mouse, do not bring her a Gibson or dirty, and by no means should you ever bring her anything less than top shelf. 7. Do not allow her to wallow in existential crisis. Instead, remind her that you long ago swapped kibble for squab and bring her another drink. 8. When and or if she is ready to begin, be prepared to go back to the beginning and allow her to rewrite the instructions herself. 9. If at that point she chooses not to, remember free will and forget she was ever just a cat.
Oh my God, that's more cat.
All right, I think that was it.
Okay.
Okay,
Too funny.
so, Layla, then Bob. Yes, and
I don't have anything that funny though. I can't compete with that.
we're all different. Oops, I'm trying to turn this off.
I don't need it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, because we're recording too, so they,
Oh,
and we're live streaming.
let me know if I'm not loud enough. It's up
Okay.
to you. I mean,
Well, up to you. It's here if you want.
I saw the funniest cartoon that's been circulating where there's a reading session and the author sits there like this, just reading their own writing, because most authors don't like to read their material out loud. I thought it was really funny. Anyway, I write mystery thrillers, published 6 books, working on the 7th, and that's what I'm going to read from today. And this is going to be new territory for me into psychological thriller. So I have to get that mindset going into the odd, scary. This is a prologue to the new book. Light seeped through her closed eyelids, reds and blues with shards of brightness. She strained to lift them open. They fluttered like butterflies against a closed window pane, flapping and hitting until they gave up. Unrecognizable voices drifted into her consciousness. I must be awake. But why won't my eyes open? Did you see that? Someone asked. No, what? Another said. Look. Carol Lamari had no idea what or who they were talking about. Once more, she tried to force her eyes to open, and this time she saw blurry images through slits. It was as if looking into an obstructed peephole. I think she's waking up, someone said. Kurt? But why is he saying that? Then everything faded as if someone had turned up the lights. I still hear their voices, but I can no longer understand their words. So into chapter 1. Let me know if I go over. You think you're clever. You think you can push me out like garbage? Kurt Manzi hissed words between his gritted teeth, his knuckles turning white on the steering wheel. Stop! Carol screamed in the confines of the car. Let me out now! I busted my ass for you. I am the one who built your company. Without me, you're nothing. Do you hear me? You're nothing. She clutched the door handle, wondering if she would be better off tumbling out on the pavement rather than enduring his tirade. But he had accelerated on the winding country roads. His erratic behavior scared her. Veins popped on Kurt's temple as he pushed down on the gas pedal, swerving around tight bends from right to left. Carol's grip tightened on the door handle and her heart hammered, threatening to break her ribcage. Kurt! He continued to spew his venom as the trees whizzed by in the headlights, the yellow line in the road vanishing as the cars speed. Kurt's words came in and out of her awareness as she sucked in a breath approaching the worst of the curves, with a crop of trees flanking the road, making it impossibly narrow. Kurt, stop! You're going to kill us! Her breath hitched, cutting off her words. The trees loomed in the headlight way too close. Carol lifted her arms to protect her face. They were headed straight into the vine-covered trunks. At the last moment, Kurt swerved. The last Carol witnessed was a crackling glass, the crunch of metal, and a trapped scream in her throat until darkness took over. So, he did it on purpose, but it's not a secret.
Well, if she can do without a mic, I think. might be.
You know, you can even sit over here. That's where we're gonna put you for the panel. Wow.
I can go
And there's
there.
might something there too, Bob, if you wanna give it a try.
You wanna sit?
What?
Do you wanna sit?
Well, I'm talking.
Yeah.
No? Okay.
I didn't know if you could hear.
Bob Kirkconnell, and my books are American Heart of Darkness series, volume 1 and 2. And they're comedies. No, I'm just kidding. But, got me writing is that when I was in Vietnam, I saw things happen that shouldn't be happening. And I noticed they were pretty well covered up. But the ramifications of these things that happened, we're still living with. And that got me writing about things that you could call hidden history, but we're still living it. They still have their own momentum. Even if you cover or hide something or forget it or whatever, there's still things happening. That might be a reason why a lot of America is, how can we get here? One of the things that, and I'm going to read a little bit out of my book about that, is the mass shootings, these automatic weapons, military style weapons that people think it has something to do with the Second Amendment or something like that. And I thought I'd read some of the research that I did on that. This is American Heart of Darkness, Volume 2. Lately in the U.S., there's been a national movement against the sale of military weapons designed to kill many quickly. Little known is that this issue is connected to the JFK assassination. International Armament Corporation, or INTERARMCO, founded by CIA officer Samuel Cummings in 1953, was a company that grew to dominate the world market with private arms sales. According to Robert Crowley, he was a deputy director for counterintelligence for the CIA that ended up to be a whistleblower. This is the same Samuel Cummings and the same INTERARMCO that custom designed and delivered the weapons used in the JFK assassination. In the 1950s and the 1960s, INTERARMCO flooded the U.S. civilian market with military-type firearms and dramatically undercut domestic sporting arms manufacturers. During this period, Cummings became a sales agent for several small arms manufacturers. One of these was Armalite, the manufacturer of the AR-10, from which all military-type rifles were designed. These include the M16 and the AR-15. These high-capacity rapid-fire rifles are the weapons of choice for most mass murders in the U.S. who were killed in high numbers. Cummings also marketed these weapons to armed despotic regimes and revolutionaries in Cuba, Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, to mention a few. It is nothing less than a farcical notion to believe that these weapons and those who make and market them have anything to do with caring about self-defense, preserving democracy, defending the Second Amendment, and so forth, or any other noble cause. They are psychopathic murderers who are making a good living on mass murder and causing suffering. Tell us that somebody who hollowed out a bullet and filled it with mercury so that it exploded when it hit John Kennedy's head is anything but a cold, cruel murder. And there is always the lingering question of, if someone would do this, what else would they do? They showed us what else they would do. Along with the global arms trade, the CIA has waged continuous warfare, taking control of global drug trade, legal and illegal, and used drug money and arms to overthrow many sovereign nations. To date, the U.S. has killed over 20 million in 37 sovereign countries since World War II. These international criminal acts were done with U.S. tax dollars supplemented with illegal drug money. The CIA has also used military resources, such as the infamous School of the Americas, now called the Western Hemisphere Institute for Security Cooperation, which trains Latin American military and paramilitary personnel in the use of terrorism. How are we doing on time? 1 minute? Okay. The U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, is a CIA front that has spread murder and mayhem all over the world. The National Endowment for Democracy, NED, the brainchild of the Reagan administration CIA Director William Casey, is funded by the U.S. Congress. Its purpose is to take over CIA programs to influence foreign elections by promoting the selection of candidates who supported U.S. policy and would do what the United States government tells them to do. I'll just stop there. Yeah, it's a little book here, you know. Nice, you can comfy up to it like on a rainy day or right before you go to bed so you can have really good nightmares and things like that. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
My name is David Stone, and I am a poet as well as a guest columnist for the Inlandia Literary Journeys columns for the last 9 years. I'm going to read you one of my columns. It came out last April, actually May 1st, and it was right at Teacher Appreciation Week. And so contextually, it's going to sound like I'm talking about that time. Thank a teacher by writing out your memories. Whether you choose a thank you card, a blog post, or to write a part of your personal memoir, this week is the perfect time to write about how your teachers have impacted you. Teacher Appreciation Week runs annually the first week of May from Monday through Friday. Some of the most cherished gifts I have received as a teacher have been letters or cards that my students have written sharing their memories of our time together. Now 35 years out of high school myself, almost all of my grade school teachers and many of my high school teachers have passed. Writing about them allows me the opportunity to honor them and to reconsider what I learned from each of them. Mrs. Mayle, M-A-L-E, taught me science in the 8th grade. She reminded me of B. Arthur, who played Maud and later Dorothy on The Golden Girls. Tall and broad-shouldered, Mrs. Mayle stood with a commanding presence and spoke with a sharp sense of wit. A commanding presence was a blessing when you were a middle school teacher in the 1970s with the last name of the opposite gender. She was actually married to an Episcopalian priest, Father Mayle. Her students affectionately referred to her as Mother Mayle. Mother Mayle created her own chapbook of aphorisms and adages, terms she wisely defined for us. I wish I had a copy of her book today. I couldn't repeat any of her adages now, but I have maintained a deep appreciation for well-crafted sentences ever since. Mother Mayle did teach me scientific classification in a manner I have never forgotten. She led us around her classroom in a mambo line. Kicking our feet and flailing our arms, we sang with emphatic rhythm and motion. Each kingdom is divided into phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Yes, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Yo! Mother Mayle also sent me to the only detention I ever served in middle school, in life. Frustrated with our chattering mouths when we were supposed to be silently working, she threatened that the next student who spoke would get detention. Moments later, I asked my classmate Stephen for a sheet of notebook paper and received the single detention sentence necessary to make the rest of the class comply for the rest of the period. In detention, I was assigned to write an essay describing the incident that had put me there and what I had learned. A budding poet, I included rhyming lines titled "The Words of the Witch." I wrote, "Just one peep and the devil will reap, keeping your soul as a toll. You may scream till you hit a beam, but you'll still steam until you're a thick cream. Then your head will be spread on a thick piece of bread, and you will be crunchily munched for brunch. My cheeky poem didn't get me in more trouble, but rather brought me affirmation from Mother Mail and my English teacher, who fought for retesting for me, a dyslexic student who had been diagnosed in kindergarten, to be considered for gifted status. I never got the change in status from the school district, but Mother Mail and my English teacher helped change my perspective of myself. I began to think of myself as a writer. Like most other writing in educational remembrance begins with the collection of details. You might start with making a list of each of your grade school teachers year by year, or making a superlative list of your middle school and high school teachers. Who was your funniest teacher? Who was your most caring teacher? Which teacher inspired you the most? Good description begins with specific names. Forgive yourself if you can't remember immediately. If you have access, check your yearbooks or your photo albums to assist you. What a great excuse to connect with a sibling or a classmate to share information about a teacher who taught you both. Details create the big picture, says the financier Sanford Wheel. Recounting concrete, specific details makes our memories come alive. Think about the sights, sounds, textures, tastes, and smells you associate with your teacher. Mrs. Mail wore a white lab coat with a number 9 on the pocket on one side and her name embroidered in black on the other. She presented herself as a scientist. Making a comparison through a simile or a metaphor can say so much more in so few words. Mrs. Mail delivered her humor like Maud. The best way to share our memories of our teachers is through stories. What they did often outlasts what they said. Their significance shines through the stories we share. Write about the obstacles they helped you overcome, the care and inspiration they provided through their demeanor, and the insights and meaning they helped you discover. Like a good biographer, share the story and state its significance. Feeling gratitude and not expressing it, said William Arthur Ward, is like wrapping a present and not giving it. Don't wait. Write out your teachers, how your teachers have influenced you today.
Thank you so much, Dave. I love the variety we're hearing tonight. Everyone is a different kind of writer with different different kinds of efforts published and so on. And I think that's pretty great for tonight, especially as we're getting under the skin and kind of learning about what makes us all tick. I'm a little sorry I didn't read bios in the beginning. Normally we have this kind of opening thing and then we launch the program. Do we need them? Not really? Maybe. Let's do it then. All right. I'm going to start with Katie. Katie Porter has been a leader in the nonprofit arts sector for more than 10 years and writing and publishing for 3 decades. She has a master's in fine arts from Antioch University, Los Angeles, and is the author of 10 collections of poetry. Is that still correct? Okay, including The Body at a Loss, a novel, which you just heard from tonight. She lives in Southern California with her family, where she runs Poemelian, a journal of poetry, and as we know, directs Inlandia Institute. Thank goodness. Layla Kirkconnell is Palestinian-American. She's a retired special education teacher, author, and artist. Passion and inspiration for the novels and short stories she writes are drawn from real life. Bob Kirkconnell is a Vietnam-era decorated combat veteran, plagued by questions about what he had seen. His research led to the discovery that America has pursued a course of racism, genocide, and militarism from the very beginning to the present, leading to his American Heart of Darkness series. David Stone first gained notoriety for his poem, Words of the Witch, which we got to hear, which he wrote in a detention essay in 1983. He's been stuck in school and writing ever since. He earned a Master's of Arts degree in English at La Sierra University and has served the last 20 years teaching English at Loma Linda Academy. His poetry has been published in New Verse News, Identity Theory, and Shuf, right? Or Shuf. Shuf. He's been a guest writer for the Press Enterprises Inlandia in literary journeys columns for 9 years, and he's a former poetry editor for Inlandia, a literary journey. So that's the lineup we've got going, and we welcome you. And we are talking about gratitude tonight, and we are grateful you are all here. We're going to start off with Katie and I are going to be talking and kind of sharing our stories a little bit, and then we'll shift through the program. And really, Leila and Bob, I'd love it if you wanted to come sit up here and kind of be panel-like. Come on, join us. I don't know if you saw this in anything that went out with marketing and so on, but I did mention to bring a journal, and I was going to offer up a couple of writing prompts. And you maybe don't not always want that, right? When you go, you kind of just want to listen. Come on, do I have to write? But they're quick, they're easy, and you don't have to share them. They're going to be 2 minutes each. Kimmy, if you would time the 2 minutes once we get started. And then we'll come to the other one a little bit later. Just write it and have it there in your little journal. Do you need a journal? If you don't have anything to write with, we have them on the back table over there, little booklets and pens. I keep coming back to this Mary Oliver quote. Mary Oliver's a poet. I'm sure you all know that. There they are. Aren't those cute?
They are adorable.
Yeah, we love those. And we have cranes too, in case you want to color. Mary Oliver said, what is your plan? What is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? And I keep thinking of that. I'm of a certain age now, but I'm still always thinking about what I want to do with my life. It's like I still have so much to do and so much I want to do. As we think of ourselves as writers and how we become writers, here's the prompt. Here's what I want you to consider. Don't worry, by the way, about making it make any kind of sense or look pretty or be grammatically correct. Just yeah. Here's the question. What does a writer's life look like to you? That's it. Just right. What does a writer's life look like to you? What do you think it is? What is a writer's life? Jot down anything.
Please repeat.
What does a writer's life look like to you?
Oh.
What do you think a writer's life is? That's 2 minutes. So finish your sentence if you're in a sentence or your word or your thought. These little journals are really nice for your purse, your pocket. Have it with you. You think of something, write it down. The second prompt we're going to do right now is take whatever you're writing in your journal, or if you brought one, and just randomly flip to another page somewhere in it, and turn it in a different direction. Blank page, different direction, any way you want it to be. Here's the prompt. what I really need to say, what is it I hope for with my writer's life? What is it I hope for with my writer's life? Okay, that's another 2 minutes. Thank you. It comes back to what is it do you plan to do with your one wild and precious life, doesn't it? We talked a little bit just as we were kind of getting ready for tonight's event about the magic. There's certain magic. This is part of the magic right here. Sometime later on, maybe you're going to have written a laundry list, a grocery list. Maybe you will use it for writing down notes while you're sitting at the park or in a cafe, and you're going to find this question at different times. You may consider it differently, you may look at it, you may have accomplished some of the things you thought that you wanted. But there is a certain magic in it. There's writing it down, making it manifest through the writing it down. Daring to dream in the very beginning was how I think we all kind of got started thinking, am I a writer? Can I write? I kind of think I want to be a writer. But what does that look like? How does that feel? So Katie and I are going to talk for a minute, and I'm going to try not to talk too much so I can hand it over to you.
Should I come up?
Yeah, if you want to come up, right, we'll come sit down. We can do it Kindle style.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. When I started writing, I was newly single with 2 little children and got a job at Cinefx magazine, which is a publication that has to do with special effects in film. I got it because I loved movies, but I had a friend whose husband was the publisher, so they needed someone to be an associate editor, which is just kind of an assistant type person. You do some editorial work. And through that experience, I learned how to write long, intense technical articles. When the publisher asked me, he goes, I think you can write. I think you could do an article. I'm like, no, why could I write this? But I did. So I just learned to say yes when I was offered something. I learned to take chances. I learned to do things I was terrified. I still am. Even now, things that I'm writing, I'm like, did I get that right? It's still not entirely easy, but you do get a bit more confidence as you go along. So by doing the work, the practice of writing, I came across journal writing. And journal writing was the way I got myself going. I was a school teacher after the Cinefx work. I became a public school teacher with my 2 little ones. And so it's like, okay, summer vacation, now I'm going to be a writer. And I sat down and went, okay, what do I write? I don't have any idea what to write. I didn't know what to do. So I went out and I bought, where is my book? This one, Writing Down the Bones, which some of us know and love, by Natalie Goldberg. And by the way, we put together a list of books that we love and that we want to recommend, and we're going to give it to you. And it became a lifeline. It became, okay, I don't really know how to do this or what to do, but I'm going to read this and I'm going to follow it and I'm going to do the exercises. And one thing led to another. Journal writing and journal work over the years led to stacks of it. But nothing is wasted, is what I want to tell you. Nothing is wasted. Whatever the work you do, if you write a Facebook post and you put a little verve into it, you put a little spin into it, the work you did is not wasted. And if it never gets published, you never share it, it makes you a better writer. It helps you have access to getting what is inside out. So I have so much more to say, but I fear that I'm going to talk too long. So part of what I want to do is talk about my gratitude for these writing books, for the Natalie Goldberg book, this is my favorite. This is the book I go to when I need some kind of comfort. It is writing for children, but it's essays by children's book authors, and I would really love to be a children's book author. That's what I really like to do. So it's one of those things. I bought it when I went on a little trip up to Ashland, Oregon to see the theater, the plays that they have up there, the Shakespeare, and I sat in the park and I read it and I felt like a writer. It felt wonderful, but I go back to it for comfort again and again. This is another one, Dear Genius. It is letters, the beautiful art of writing letters of Ursula Nordstrom, who was a children's book editor at Harper and wrote beautiful letters to encourage writers, because we don't do that enough. If you are a writer, is anyone there? Did you hear it or get it? Or it's a very lonely thing. So expressing gratitude to writers goes a long way. Thank you. I really like that piece. And it's not hard for it to be sincere. It is sincere when I say it. I have a hard time not being effusive, in fact. Sometimes during writers' workshops, we're supposed to be quiet and not really give commentary about what, but it's just like I can't help but gush. It's just how it is. So this is a beautiful book of her letter writing. And one more I'm going to mention here. It's not on the list, but I love East of Eden by John Steinbeck. It's my favorite Steinbeck. And I came across this at the Steinbeck Museum. It's the journal of a novel. He wrote this. He wrote letters to his editor as he was writing East of Eden. So if you want to kind of get like, oh my God, this is what he was thinking about. This is what was going on in his life, and how he came up with the actual novel. That's a wonderful exercise too. So I'm grateful for all these guideposts along the way. I'm grateful for whatever grit I had that made me think I could somehow write a book and finish it. I don't even know how that happened, but it did. And just keep saying yes. And I'm especially grateful to Inlandia and to the Inlandia community for the many connections and the many lovely people I now have in my life because of it. Very grateful for you, Katie.
And I am grateful for you. And I recognize some of these books, but not all of them. And I was trying to think. I should have brought my Writer's Craft books, but I didn't. And I have several of them open that I'm working on right now because I'm kind of transitioning from writing strictly about poetry to writing more memoir. And that's a challenge when you're used to writing in a certain way. I'm used to writing poems that are funny or concise. All of my answers to the writing prompts. A writer's life looks like pickles in an overstuffed jar of avocado paste. I could keep going, but this is how my brain works. If I try and write prose, it comes out like something surreal. As far as, I'm grateful to a lot of people. My writerly gratitude goes back to some of you. Raise your hand if you've heard or met Gail Brandeis. Okay. She was Inlandia's literary laureate for, it was from 2012 to 2014. We have somebody coming in. It's okay. He should come in. Yeah. I think he's trying to be very quiet. So Gail, I have always written. I mean, I don't have them here, but actually I kind of do. I wrote this poem in high school. I don't know if you can see my child handwriting, but this went on to be my first published poem in a college literary journal. But I didn't think of myself as a writer. I was a waitress. I worked in a tourist shop in a Navy town. I worked at Kinko's. And when I was at Kinko's, in my mind, I made the connection between, okay, I'm working with paper, I'm working with print, I'm working with printed things. That's kind of a bridge to working as a publisher or working as a writer. And I was big and pregnant with my first son, and I met the writer, Gail Brandeis. Gail was already, her star was already launched. She had been written about in the newspaper. She had 2 small children, and she wrote some things about mothering, and among other things. And she used to come in there and make copies of these newspaper articles. And she press clippings and things like that to send out. And she was shopping around the book and all these things. And she and I got to talking, and I just casually mentioned one day that, oh, I'm a writer too. And how many times has somebody said that to you? Yeah, a lot of times, I'm a writer. And the person saying it might feel a little self-conscious about it, and the person hearing it, oftentimes, depending on the level of the writer, they might poo-poo it, or they might, if it's family who isn't a writer, maybe they don't get it. But Gail got it right away, and she didn't dismiss me, and she didn't make me feel less than. Instead, she said, hey, why don't you join my writers group that I'm forming? And I joined it, and that was 23 years ago. My son is 23 now, and I've gone from working at Kinko's and not having anything published except in a few college magazines to being the director of a literary nonprofit. That's my writer's life. That's the kind of thing that you give to somebody when you give them an affirmation that, yes, you are a writer. Yes, you can do it. Yes, your words have value and your words matter, and I hear you. So I think that's where my perspective when I think about gratitude is I am grateful to all those people in my life who didn't shut me down. The teacher who wrote at the top of my paper in high school, so you want to be a writer. And I didn't come from that kind of a background. I came from a blue-collar family. Nobody in my immediate family was a writer, and it just didn't seem like something. Okay, sorry, now I have to take off my writer hat and hope with my administrator hat. I'll be right back. Talk for a second.
This is one of those talks where there's just so much to say. There's so much that you don't always realize what a rich story it is till you start to tell it. It started out, but being ready for when the opportunity comes is part of it. And you get there by writing, by working on your craft, by caring about that. And connecting with others is a huge and important thing. And I nearly forgot to mention that. We're going to get to that a little bit in a minute to talk about the San Bernardino Writers Group. I included some of that too. The book list has a list of books, but it also has a list of writers groups and organizations. Writing is a solitary pursuit. It's lonely at times. It's confusing at times, and it's very isolating. And to be able to connect with and reach out to others and form bonds and friendships is a huge, huge thing. I'm very grateful that I've been able to do that with Inlandia. I love visiting different writers groups. We have different workshops that go on, and just stopping by to see them and to listen to stories, to listen to all the amazing life stories and lives people have lived is truly a blessing.
It is, and I think that's one of the things that I really value about what we've built with Inlandia is this community of writers, because we have each other. At the end of the day, we always have each other. I was thinking about gratitude and the ways that we can express gratitude as writers and as readers. And we've got our list of books and recommended writers' books, but I also have Katie's advice on gratitude for readers and writers. So you can pick one of these up if you would like to take one with you. At the top of the list is, and it comes down to what David was saying too with the teachers. And in fact, I think that it's all interrelated. Thank your teachers. I'm still friends with one of my high school English teachers because I reached out to him because he was supportive of me. So if you want to express your gratitude to a writer, say something nice to them about their writing, either personally, so you can just say, hey Leela, I really loved that mystery you wrote. And that is a positive way to thank them. Or go post a review, because that actually really helps the author. Post a review on Goodreads. It doesn't cost anything. If you've read the book and you love the book, or recommend the book to somebody else. I think this was either the last week of the year, I put out this call to all of my Facebook friends, and I said, if you could only recommend one book to somebody this year, what book would that be? And I ended up with a spreadsheet. I had to reduce it to fit on one page. Everything that was recommended, I took seriously and I put down, and I've got everything on here from nonfiction books to the Bible, to lessons in chemistry, to, what was the other? There's like a computer book, command and control. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. But I've already read one of the books on this list. I read, actually the month of January, I read 3 books, and I'm just working through this. So everybody who recommended a book to me, that was their way too of showing gratitude to the writer. And then if you are a writer, this is a hard one, but be grateful for criticism. Yeah, be grateful for criticism. We can have a thin skin and sometimes be very unhappy about what somebody might say to us, but if we can take a deep breath and know that A, their opinion isn't the only opinion, and B, there might be, we might be feeling a little, and I'm losing my words, but just miffed that somebody didn't get the work. But the other side of that is maybe there's a kernel of truth in there, or something that you can take from what they've said that maybe you couldn't see without someone telling you that. So be grateful for it. And it's also an opportunity to learn something about yourself and to learn how to connect with other writers without taking offense. And when you're giving criticism, be grateful that you've had the opportunity to read it. Even if you didn't enjoy it, you've taken it in, you've absorbed something from them. There's also the make a gratitude list, and as writers, I think we can be insecure. I'll raise my hand, right? But if you make a list of all the things that you're grateful for in your writer's life, like I'm grateful for Al. He's not looking. Did he hear me? Maybe not. I'm grateful for Carmen, who is paying attention. So I think Al's paying attention too, but he's very vigorously writing. I'm grateful for all of you for being here, and I'm grateful for all of the people who aren't here. So when you receive a rejection, be grateful for it, because it was an opportunity, and every rejection slip just shows you that you tried. And when you receive an acceptance, be grateful for that too. We all want to be humble about it, or we don't want to share, but our friends want to share in our success with us. And don't worry about what other people think. Just toot your own horn. It's okay. And if there's somebody who helped you on your road to becoming a writer, like a teacher, Mother Mail, send them a note or connect with them in some way. There was a high school librarian that she was instrumental, really, in getting me on this road. And there were also, California poets in the schools. That's one thing I say. If I wouldn't be where I am today if California poets in the schools hadn't come to my 8th grade classroom. And I say that every opportunity I get, because I think that every child should have that opportunity in the classroom. You never know who's going to be the next poet. Without that, I don't think I would have known what I was capable of. And when you feel frustrated, just try to be grateful even for the frustrations and find the upside of the things that get you down. So, get off my soapbox. But, I've built a writer's life around gratitude. So, and I'm grateful to everybody that got me here. Now, I'm going to excuse myself one more time.
All right, over to the Kirkconnell branch of the writer family here. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how you got going as writers, and also how you feel about community and gratitude, and how that works for you. Bless you. And be sure we can hear you. Can you all hear? Okay.
I figured since
Go ahead.
I wrote first, so I might as well start.
Yeah.
But,
It's all good.
yeah, how I got started was pretty much how I explained it. That, I found out that, and somebody told me this, it was a long time ago, that you got to, people talk about writer's cramp, and you got to figure out why you're writing. And remind yourself every day what your purpose is in writing. It's critical. And I found out that I had to write for myself. I can't write for what I think an audience wants to hear. It doesn't work. Because it has to come from within you. For me, and the process was my main goal, which I mentioned before, is to take things that are not known, that had a profound effect on us as a society and throughout history, and where that's at now, how that happened, and what the cause and effect is, and things that are related to it. And I would do it in it's called a mind melt, where I put the main idea right in the middle, and then these ideas, concepts that come off of it, and then figure it out by chapter. That was my process. I wrote the first book, and Al Klein and I were in a writers group. The person that was running it decided not to come anymore. So we figured this must be our group. And so we sat down and he says, what do we want to do? Well, let's have a group that really helps each other and doesn't tell each other what's wrong with what they wrote, but how you can make it better. And you can phrase the same thing, well, this is screwed up in your book, and it stings, and that's all somebody remembers, is that it stings. But if you say, this here, I think it'd be better if you added this to it, or you came at it this way, oh yeah, that's a good idea. The person gets the message. So we decided to have a writers group that did that. And you have to, anybody that's been in organizations, that they forget why they're there if you don't tell them. You've got to stay on that. You know, what's your purpose? And so we stayed on that, and we ended up with 160 online, I think we have.
Yeah, a little over.
Yeah,
60.
quite a few of them are not real active, but it doesn't matter. They're there, and we have an online group that meets every first and third Tuesdays, not every other week. We got one of our a branch of our group though, and we call it the attention deficit group. That can't remember that we meet, and they think we meet every 2 weeks. So, when you have 3 Tuesdays or 4, whatever, they meet and they have their own meeting. They call themselves the Attention Deficit Writers Group, San Bernardino Writers Group. But but we've had really success with that. And we keep it positive, we keep it constructive. In the group, a lot of people have published, and we don't expect everybody, if you don't want to publish, there's a writer's group, not a publisher's group. But we have people around that can do cover design, layout, put something up on Amazon, all of these things, and we've got quite a few people that have published. So that's what keeps us going, and I end that with, you can't write without passion. You got to be passionate about something. You got to tell a story, and it's got to be your way, and it's got to be your story, or it's not genuine. You're trying to second guess yourself, and will that go across this way or that way? Well, write it, do it your best, and then throw it out there and get the feedback. And that I'll defer.
Oh, gee, thank you, honey. San Bernardino Writers Group, we have a slip on the back table. Like Bob said, we meet the first and third Tuesday. We're pretty much now just online. COVID took us online from the library, and we tried to return to meeting in person, and then there was another bout, and it was hard for everybody to get together. So now we strictly meet online. We have quite a few who come to our meetings. So if you join our Facebook group, you'll have the link to the meetings, and we'd love to have you.
It's not just based on San Bernardino.
Sorry?
It's not just based in San Bernardino.
Oh, no.
Okay.
We've got people from Moreno Valley. We even have one author from West Virginia who joined us.
He
Joined the
corrected
co-
me. He's from Virginia.
Oh, sorry.
He
He's
made
from
it
Virginia.
real clear too.
Yeah, it has a Virginia in it somewhere, and that's all I know. But the San Bernardino Writers Group, I used to tag along with Bob for the meetings, and I would play Scrabble on my phone as they were reading. It's very interesting. I listened to it, and there was some times that, oh my gosh, this is really neat. But I wouldn't have been able to tell you a verb from no, I'm not that bad. But I couldn't tell you what made it work, what should have been better. I couldn't. That wasn't my background. I wasn't a writer. And if anybody would have said you'd be writing a novel one day, I would have told you, you're crazy. That never happened. My writing is more business, bullets. That's what I've done for all the years in my life. But then when I reflect back, I've always written. When AOL used to have their website, I don't know if you are old enough, when they gave you a website, I used to write short stories and then prose, and there was nothing but that on that page. So I guess I've written throughout my life, but nothing formal. One day, it was at that book fair that you guys did, that one, the Redlands?
Yeah. Well, we're not.
And
Angie Martin.
I went and took my 4-mile walk as they were doing their thing. Came back and I was listening to an audiobook. I'm an avid reader, always have been. There was Angie Martin. She was talking about character development and something else, I don't remember right now. And I took out one earbud, I said, this is interesting. Then I took out the other earbud and shut off my audiobook. And I was like, oh my gosh, is that all there is to it? Yeah, right. Huh? So I went home and my first book, I wrote it in 2 days. The whole book. It was, I think, called a novella because it was under 50,000 words. And I thought it was, junk. Okay, this is just a story. So I told him, I said, look, if somebody wrote a book, can you read it and see what you think of it? I gave him some name. But anyway, he said, oh, this is a pretty good story. I said, seriously, you think so? So I wrote it. He couldn't believe it. But needless to say, it took like 15,000 revisions and editing, and it was months and months later before it was an actual book that was published. But then I thought, oh my gosh, I can do this. So I published it. I started in 2017. If I can do it, you can do it. In 2017, I published a book every year around October, November. I released a new book since then. So it's been a very, very fun journey. I love it. It's a movie that plays in my head, and I just transcribe what the characters are saying or what they're doing. That's how I write. Some people like to plan out and with an outline and all this. I can't do that. I'm a pantser, I guess they call me. Yep. Yeah.
The what?
Pantser. Pantser.
Oh,
you run by the
pantser. That's the guy who pulled guns. Not the same thing.
Yeah, it's really interesting to have 2 writers in the house. It's just really interesting for us. It's a fun life. And I got into editing, so I do editing, cover design, formatting, and I help those who want to publish on Amazon have their files ready to be uploaded. It's been a super fun journey. I can't imagine why I didn't get into it earlier. I mean, I love writing almost as much as I love reading. So it's been, my story is different.
But it just shows that it can happen anytime.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Anybody, if you've got that urge, just write.
She goes in the office. Well, I can do that, and there were books flying out of it. I can, how many is it? 6 you published? I can't keep up with this.
Six. I've got 7 now. The one I read you an excerpt, that's from my number 7. And I've got a collection of short stories that I'm still cleaning up so I can eventually publish them. But anyway, that's...
Thank you. We're a little bit amazed, aren't we? It's like, oh my goodness.
It's
to
so
be that
fun.
prolific.
It's so fun. So fun.
Does anyone write like that? Or you do? You
Oh, yay!
Yeah, I see that movie and I just follow along.
transcribe it. What's in your head? Oh my gosh.
By the way, during our writers group meeting, and it's not mandatory, you can bring up to 1,000 words, that we can collectively help you with it. You read and we go around 1 minute to give positive feedback, what we like, what works, and then 1 minute for constructive feedback. How can you, like Bob said, how can you make it better? We never tell you suck, because if everybody told me this, I would have been the end of it.
Yeah, that's right.
So, because there's always a way to make things better, and you have to be open for that. And that's what you were saying, that you got to have that thankfulness that there's somebody that cares enough to say, Sheila, I really think you really mean to put it this way. Can you think of maybe a different way where I can connect with your character, or I can connect, I want to see that setting, I can't see it, can you help me? So it's kind of neat to have that feedback. That's it.
Thank you, thank you. All right, let's hear from David.
Okay. I think I see myself as an emerging writer. I'm slow.
You've been emerging since I first
Yeah.
met you 10 years ago.
Yeah, I'm the slow clan. No, I'm a teacher, and I recently was involved in hiring several people, and one of the people that I was interviewing said that they had checked me out, and they had looked me up on the internet, and they said, "You've done a lot." And I looked at them like they were nuts. I had no idea. And so then I started looking myself up, and I haven't done so badly. More than I thought I had. And I call myself a poet. I see myself as a poet. I have a manuscript, but I don't have a published book. I have to keep believing in myself and putting myself out there more than I have. I entered the Inlandia Gravendike Prize and got kind of an honorable mentionist kind of level of thing, and then I hid away and felt hurt and unsuccessful. And what am I going to do about this? And COVID hit, and you feel like, what are you going to do? So I'm getting back, as we're all getting back into things and getting energy, and I'm going to pull myself out and try again other ways. But when I wrote my mind, I hope to publish a book of my poems. I want someone else to choose them and value them. That's my writer's life dream. And so, yeah, I understand that they have different judges, blah, 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 blah. So I might try again.
We're all vulnerable.
Yes. So, but when you read about writers, they say these kinds of things. John Steinbeck, I read about in the Marginalia, I think it's the Marginalia, something like that. They talked about John Steinbeck and gratitude, and they said that he wrote about it in the Log of the Sea of Cortez, which I had to read when I took a field biology class in college 35 years ago or something, 30 years ago. And it's that being vulnerable, being open, and it's such a part of being a writer. By putting your words out on the paper and typing them or writing them and then giving them to somebody else. That's scary. I mean, for most people, other people are like just brazenly like, don't give a rip and just put it out there. But when people say the things which we need, which is encouragement, it does so much for us as writers. Years ago, Katie invited me to go to a women's club. And we had a really good time. And I got up front and shared my poems and talked to all the people. And they read the newspaper. This group of women read the newspaper, and they had read my articles in the newspaper.
Got a copy of one of them right here.
Yeah.
You're very popular.
And I was like, I had no idea. And I got a postcard last year before from India. From a guy who read what I had written about postcards and sent me a postcard for International Postcard Week. They wanted to tell me that he was thankful for what I had written. And I don't share my personal address, in my thing. So I say that I'm a poet who teaches at Loma Linda Academy. So in my work mailbox came this postcard. Totally unexpected. And, it does a lot for you. And it makes you think like, oh, I might have more to say. But writer's life for me is often about a lot of two things. First of all, I think there's a lot of research. When I go to write a column, or something like that, I do a lot of thinking about it. I do a lot of reading. And you don't see, like, there's that picture that shows like the iceberg kind of thing, you only see the tip of it. The 800 words that you produce have 20, 30, 40, 50, 100,000 more that you've written or thought about and you're not putting there. You put a lot of work into a writing life. I think that suffering plays another part in a writer's life. Personal suffering. I had a professor in graduate school who I shared my writing with. We used to have Mocha Muse and music. That was our, writing performance opportunity. It was a fun little gathering once a month at La Sierra University. And when I got married, I stopped writing. I was happy. Yeah, and I wrote out of angst, and I didn't write for years. Now, does that say something about the quality of my marriage? I don't think so, but life brings other challenges, and you find other reasons for writing, the purpose that you get in touch with. And you see a different reason. But many people are compelled by the kinds of things that they experience, like this man over here, that really eat at you until you can figure them out and put them into some sort of sense and share them. And whether it's finding beauty or finding humor or finding some sort of wisdom, writers search or discover and share. And so that's what I keep doing. And I'm a man like her who has, late teenage children, and it's a full-time job, caring for your children and being an employee, and then carving out that niche so that you write. That's a part of the writer's life, is the commitment to a time. And I find some things like, okay, right now, this month, to back up just for a second about the thing. So when I wrote the column for the newspaper in December, for the entire month of December, I wrote a blog post every day about different ideas for journals. So I came up with 31 different journaling ideas, not just like a prompt, but 31 different kinds of journals you could keep and post them. And then, when hoped that when I published in the paper that I would get this little boom on my thing. If it's happening, I'm not seeing it the same way. But what's interesting to me is that, it's there. And you see you can see where things come from. And there's somebody from Denmark, and there's somebody from South Africa, and there's somebody from other.
I'm sorry, but what's the name of your blog?
Oh, my website is Writestone, WRITESTONE.com. Writestone.com. And you put things out there, and then it helped me. It'll help other people. I'm keeping my own different types of journals. You can't keep them all. Way too many. But you do that. And now I think I've lost what I was going to say next, but that's okay. I've summed up for now. I'm going to be talking about personal writing and postcards in a minute.
Yeah, well, your column inspired me to, one I got from you and one I got from a Washington Post article that I read. But I'm working on this nonfiction project, and as David is talking about that, the tip of the iceberg, I've bought and read and written and deleted and written, I've got, 24 books that are all in that vein. But when I sit down in the morning, I have a little journal, I have my writing space. When I'm done, I write something in there to say, this is what I was working on today. And these are the things that I researched today. And the other one is a haiku every day. And that's turning into more like almost like a journal of, this is what I did today in haiku form. And that's really easy to do. So, yeah.
But what you were saying made me think about First of all, this is so fun and interesting. I'm really loving hearing all this, and I want to hear from you too about your process, and or if you have any questions. But what I'm thinking about is how many times I've written to understand something, to chew on something that is not clear to me or I'm confused about, or if I look at my stack of journals and I go, I'm just writing, okay, blah blah blah. I'm sitting at Starbucks, and here I am, and I'll describe the weather, and then maybe by the second or third page, I'll really write what I really have on my mind, right? And then maybe a question, or I'll be chewing on something, if something's off in my life, and sure enough, 2 or 3 months later, I will have figured it out. Have you ever done that? It's an amazing process, and it really is just trusting the process and not controlling it. It's just the writing helps you think. Writing helps you think. Keep going.
Oh, I guess I was going to talk about the things that keep me going. And that was, Inlandia is one of those things. I have belonged to an Inlandia workshop for about 10 years, I think. I started with Charlotte Davidson in an art gallery. It was right after you left that, and Charlotte took over. And there were 3 or 4 of us, maybe 5 max at the time, in this art gallery where we met in Ontario. And Victoria Waddle, who runs the Ontario workshop now, was one of the people I worked with. And over the years, I just kept going, and it gave me a reason for writing. I had a deadline in 2 weeks. I had to have something done, and it made me, in a working, busy life, create something else. This year, for the second year, I'm involved in the World Peace Poets postcard project. And so last February, every day during the month of February, I wrote a poem about peace, related to peace. And as I said, I researched, so I spent time every night reading and thinking about peace and learning all sorts of things, and producing a poem, something that was short, that would fit on a postcard, that I was going to mail to another person who was in this group. Because I get given a list of who I'm supposed to be sending my next postcard to. And I made postcards, because I like to do linoleum block printing. So I designed a postcard and wrote all of them on one of those. I printed out 30 some of them and then wrote them each day. There's only probably 2 or 3 out of that month's poems that I really like, but that's more than I had before I started. And I'm starting again, and we'll see if I come up with something that I enjoy or not.
How many do you get of those postcards?
I got close to, it's in February, so there's 29, 28 days. Yeah, I got at least 25, because people are pretty good about it. I had mixed feelings about what came of it. I didn't thoroughly understand. I expected to get all poems that were by other poets. But there are people who are involved in it who just send encouraging thoughts about peace or other kinds of things. So it's not exactly what I expected, but I do enjoy participating in it, what it does for me as well as what I get for them. And they make me think about this topic in a lot of different ways.
What was it called again?
It's the World Poetry. I'll look it up for you and get back to you. It's a WPP and then poetry postcard project. So it's the World Peace Poets. That's it. The World Peace Poets postcard project. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is. And so it happens every year, and there's some woman who runs it and organizes it, and she sends you an email, and there's close to 100 people who are a part of this. They have 3 sets of groups that are putting it in, and that's separate from, there's another postcard poetry project that are out there, and you can enjoy them as a way of making you write about something and enjoy reading somebody else's.
I hadn't heard about the peace one. That's really cool, that it's themed.
Yeah.
And it's making me think we should do one for Inlandia.
We should have a themed postcard. I think it would be fun.
I think it would be. It's a great idea. And we have postcards, and you probably saw it on.
Yeah, great.
So.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay, all right. I want to know if you have any questions or you would like to share. Yes,
I
ma'am.
wrote a book about, a children's book about peace. I have it. I haven't published that, but I have it.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So
We
I
will
will
publish
publish
it.
research for that, but I never heard about that project, so it's interesting.
I have something I could share, something I wrote recently, and if you want, take a few minutes. It's something about a friend of mine that died tragically, and after I attended his service, I sat down and wrote a poem about it. So if you want, I can read it for you.
Sure.
This is,
You can just read it from there, because we're not using it.
I have to stand up.
All right. Well, we are grateful
little
for
bit
you,
stiff.
Al, and your spontaneous
I've been working at the
poetry.
food bank all day, so I just happened to have it in my notebook here. I was thinking it might be a good idea to share this. My friend passed away on January 2nd. He was hit by a drunk driver on the corner of 40th and Sierra Way in San Bernardino. And guy was going over 80 miles an hour, died on the scene. There's over 300 people attended his candlelight funeral or vigil. Over 400 people were at his church for his service. And after I attended this service, I sat down and this poem just came out of me. I just had to put some words on paper. This is called Rainy Day Memorial. Oh, how the tears flowed from family and friends at this memorial service for a good man gone too soon. Outside, the sky was weeping a steady rain as if in reaction to the violence of this man's unexpected passing. Perhaps it was all due to the injustice. There was no anger or talk of retribution against the drunken man who took my friend's life, who struck my friend's car, going nearly 100 miles an hour. His smaller car was crushed from the front and back, so he never had a chance. No, the tears were all about the senseless death of a teacher. There were tears of joy also over the stories and memories of the life this man lived. A hard-working university graduate, athlete, a husband and father, a man who made countless lives better as a teacher, recovered alcoholic, and a sobriety partner with AA. His wonderful use of humor. Hymns were sung and prayers were offered. Stories and good memories were shared. Children, peers, and friends spoke of a life well lived and service to others. This was a man who lifted people in words, actions, and by example. How ironic that he was killed by a man he would gladly help. There were pictures of my friend in all stages of his life, as if to highlight how fleeting this existence we're living here on this earth truly is. An aged father in a wheelchair and young grandchildren showed the bookmarks of this great adventure we call a human life. Though he passed at age 61, he demonstrated what one man could accomplish in 80 years. Hundreds of family members, peers from his school, and people he touched by his example of sober living at AA. Members of his church congregation praised the countless hours of service he gave. Yes, gone too soon, but remembered as a loving father, caring teacher, and stalwart friend when one was sorely needed. Paradise will be a more blessed place, even as our community feels his loss. How do we measure the good that a man such as this leaves at his passing? I wrote this poem and gave it to a friend, and she gave it to this guy's daughter. And it's been passed around among all the people who survived as survivors. So I never knew that I could write something like that in the spur of the moment. It just came out really fast. I typed it up really fast, took it to church that Sunday. The service was on Saturday. I gave it to someone on Sunday, and it was given to all of his children right after that. So, and I wrote down here about a writer's life. I wrote, a writer's life is begun when a person chooses to no longer be a passive consumer of art, but a producer of art. They won't be happy to sit and watch, hear, or experience what others have created, but to create something they will be proud of. So all you have to do to be a writer is just give up on being a passive consumer and put something on paper.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to share, and I think we're going to close.
We are.
Okay. Yeah. So they're going to kick us out of here shortly. But I brought some things because you're mentioning bookmarks. Out of the blue. So this is the power of people just doing something nice for you. I got this really sweet little note with a print of my friend's art on the back and a bookmark with my initial on it. And it says, I believe that our lives are built on the stories we tell ourselves. Whether you disappear in a masterful piece of fiction, enhance your world in engaging nonfiction, or tell your own tales in a journal. I hope your stories are amazing this year, and I hope I get to hear them. So,
Wow.
yeah. So I think that's what you can do if you feel grateful for somebody. Send them a note. You don't have to go to this much trouble. She went to a lot of trouble, and I will use it, and it's beautiful. But it's the little things. A poem written after a friend's passing. Now that's going to be, I'm sure, cherished by the family. So, yeah, we've got you. Yeah.
Well, thank you all for being here. We are
Thanks
so
for having us.
appreciative of you.
Thanks so much for having us.
Oh, our pleasure. We're glad to meet you in person. It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
So remember, find something to connect with. Find a group, find a workshop, and Inlandia offers many workshops. We have online opportunities with San Bernardino Writers Group.
Yep.
Or get a friend and take them down to the coffee shop.
Yeah, or find a writer's group. And, I mean, I've been in mine for 20 years, and you can't replace that. And I'd like you all to take a rubber duck.
Oh, I am definitely going to take
And
over.
I made gratitude postcards for you too.